Imagine your phone rings at 2 a.m. Your husband, your mom, your child, someone you love is in the ICU. They are unconscious, machines are breathing for them. Then a doctor tells you there's no realistic hope of recovery. We want to remove life support. You asked one question, and a very important question this is. And that question is, do I get a say? That is the question at the center of Cuthbertson V Rasouli, one of the most important health law cases in Canada. Hassan Rasouli was unconscious and on life support after complications from surgery. His doctors believed he was in a persistent vegetative state, that he would never recover, and that keeping him alive had no medical benefit. They wanted to remove his life support and move him to palliative care, where he would soon die. But Rasouli's wife refused. She believed her husband would want to stay alive. So the case becomes this. Can doctors remove life support without the family's consent if they believe the treatment is futile? The doctors argued yes. They said treatment that has no medical benefit is futile, and if treatment is futile, they should not need permission to stop it. But Rasouli's wife argued removing life support is still a medical decision, maybe the biggest one possible. And because Hassan could not speak for himself, she had the right to decide for him. The case eventually went to the Supreme Court of Canada. The court inevitably sided with Rasouli's wife. The Supreme Court ruled that doctors cannot unilaterally remove life support from an incapable person in Ontario without consent from the substitute decision maker, unless the Consent and Capacity Board authorizes it. Under Ontario's Healthcare Consent Act, removing life support still counts as treatment, so it requires consent. The court said withdrawing life support is not just doing nothing. It is part of a new treatment plan, usually involving palliative care, that will likely lead to death. Because of that, it is too important to leave it entirely to doctors. But the court also said families do not get unlimited power. If a family refuses consent and the doctors believe that refusal goes against the patient's wishes or best interests, the doctors can go to the Consent and Capacity Board. That board decides who is right. This is why the idea of medical futility matters. The doctors believed life support was futile because it would not cure Hassan. But the court refused to let futile end the conversation. Because who decides what counts as a life worth living? A doctor may see no chance of recovery. A family may still see a husband, a father, a person who deserves more time to fight. Rasouli says doctors do not get to make that decision alone. For the people in the healthcare system, this case matters because if someone you love cannot speak for themselves, your voice matters. Doctors cannot simply decide to end treatment without involving you. But being a substitute decision maker is also a huge responsibility. You were supposed to make the decision the patient would have made, not simply the one you would want. That is why this case is really a warning. Have the conversation before it is too late. Tell your family what you would want if you were ever on life support. Because Cuthbertson V Rasouli shows what happens when nobody knows. When medicine reaches its limit, its final decision cannot belong to doctors alone. In Ontario, even at the edge of death, the law still says your voice matters. Thank you for listening.